Welcome back to BetterAvecBourbon. I've been excited about making this video for some time because today we're going to be smelling and sampling 4 different 10-year Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskeys to see which one is the best value and best overall in the under 75 USD price range. So expect lots of bourbon to be swirling. For the bourbons, first off we have the most elusive, the Eagle Rare 10-year. It's made by Buffalo Trace, and although it can be found for as low as 60 USD for a 2.6, it's frequently behind glass cases in America for as high as 100 USD. For many, it's seen as the quintessential bourbon and known for providing a lingering mouthfeel, which is surprising at 90 proof. Most of these bourbons will be 90 proof. Next is the Russels Reserves 10-year. It's made by Buffalo Trace's main competitor, Wild Turkey. It comes in at 90 proof and is typically found in the $40 price range. Next is the Basil Haydens 10-year, made by Jim Beam, which comes at a similar price point to the Eagle Rare, hovering around 60 USD. And in this case, it's 80 proof. And lastly, our cheapest entry, Bulleit, which comes in at around 30 USD and is 90 proof. Now that we have our selection, let's get to it. Starting off, we'll be pouring and smelling the bourbons from cheapest to most expensive, starting with the Bulleit. I'll be using Glencairn's, a specific whiskey snifter, for the sampling, as they allow for the most accurate sniff test due to the concentrated air and the ability to swirl the whiskey without getting spilly. I usually fill to the most bulbous part. Once filled, cork the bourbon and start swirling vigorously to get the glass nice and coated, so the aromas can start funneling out both the good and the bad smells. Also take note of the legs on the side of the glass. Relatively thick and viscous, as we might expect from something aged in oak for 10 years. For the nose, based on their website, we should be getting a rich, oaky aroma. Coming in for a sniff, I'd say it's exactly that. A strong, oaky, almost varnish-like nose due to the 10 years aging in charred American white oak. Next, we have Russels Reserve. It's aged for 10 years in number 4 alligator char barrels, a type of oak barrel that gets its name from the oak barrel spending 55 seconds in flame to develop a cracked, peeling surface like an alligator's skin, which then during the aging process allows for more of the charred barrel flavors to absorb into the bourbon through the charred cracks and crevices. As you can see, lots of tannins cling to the glass without immediately running down. For the aroma, based on their website, we should be getting orange peel and citrus with notes of butterscotch, maple, oak, and vanilla. Let's see if that tracks. For my nose, I'm getting oak, apple, cinnamon spice, and some vanilla. So it's pretty fragrant, though not as sweet smelling as, say, butterscotch or maple. It is 90 proof after all. Next, we have the Basil Haydens. Aged for 10 years in freshly charred American oak barrels. The expected nose, based on their website, is big oak, hints of char, vanilla, and rye. Despite some opinions, you can't swirl the whiskey too much, unless of course you spill, which would be a travesty. After some swirling and admiration, let's go in for a sniff. I get a very light oak scent compared to the previous two, green apple with a small bit of cinnamon spice. So honestly, probably the most accurate description so far based on my sense of smell. Lastly, we have the Eagle Rare 10, the priciest of the bunch. Excuse the slight spill, let's just clean that up real quick. Perfect. Okay, so as expected, this has also been aged in American oak barrels for no less than 10 years, though no specific barrel type information on their website. Alright then, keep your secrets. For the nose, based on their website, we should be getting complex aromas of toffee, hints of orange peel, herbs, honey, leather, and oak. For my nose, I get charred oak, almost a smoky leather like a used Harley-Davidson jacket. Some fruitiness, and a vanilla finish. No real spice compared to the previous two, but overall the description was pretty accurate. Given the process of these is so similar, 10 years aged in charred oak barrels with a 51% corn bill, it's not surprising how similar they all look. Now for the tasting. Starting with Bulleit. Very strong oak varnish flavor with very muted vanilla and spice flavors. The mouthfeel seems like something higher proof, but honestly I find it a bit overwhelming in the varnish flavor. It's cheaper and it tastes like it. Final thoughts, it's not subtle in flavor and very much hits you right away with the thick oaky taste. Stronger than the nose of the bourbon. The taste from their website states, consistently smooth taste with vanilla, dried fruit, and a long smoky finish. I don't get much other than the long smoky finish. Next, let's try Russels Reserve. Smooth oak flavor, tastes thinner and more approachable than Bulleit. More of what you'd expect at 90 proof. I get lots of spices like cinnamon, and then almost a cider green apple-like finish with vanilla. I really like this one and it easily edges the Bulleit, especially at a similar price point. Very accurate to the nose of the bourbon. The taste from their website states rich, spicy caramel and vanilla flavors, with a finish that's smooth and sweet, with toffee and spice notes lingering with a mild and pleasant warming. I wouldn't say I get the caramel toffee, but overall this is accurate, especially with the lingering spice. Next, let's try the Basil Haydens. It's very light in its oak flavor, even more so than the Russels Reserve, and there's also a bit of green apple. I'd almost call it refreshing compared to the previous two, which is a nicer framing than saying that the flavors are more muted overall than the previous entries. It's a nice sipper, but in my amateur opinion, at its $60 USD price point, they really have to do better. Looking at their website for taste, we have oak balanced by caramel sweetness, and rye spice with a finish that's lightly smoky with a subtle hint of char. I think this is pretty accurate, other than that I don't think there's much spice. It's a soft bourbon on the palate. Last but certainly not least, let's try the Eagle Rare. Right away you get the charred oak at the front. That smoky leathery taste is then accompanied by a fruity, almost strawberry-like taste, and then finished with chocolate vanilla. It also has a long, lingering mouthfeel that makes it feel like a higher proof bourbon. Overall, I think its price and demand is well deserved. From their website, the taste is bold, dry, oaky flavors with notes of candied almond and very rich cocoa with a finish that's dry and lingering. I don't get the almond flavor, but I think the rest is very accurate. Next is a bit unorthodox for tastings, but since I'm more of a cocktail guy, I want to do an ice cube test to see how the bourbons and their flavors hold up in the cold, and with some ice dilution. With ice, I found them all more refreshing, unsurprisingly. For the Eagle Rare, it's extra smooth, the flavors hold up, and even more of the strawberry comes through. Basil Haydens is a bit more plain. It doesn't stand up as well as Eagle Rare, but this was to be expected at a slightly lower proof, and based on the nose taste portion of the competition. And of course, in order to stay hydrated throughout the experience, while also ensuring the quality of my experiment, I I had to take additional sips. The Russels Reserve loses some of the cinnamon and centers the oak flavors more with a hint of apple. And lastly, the Bulleit is still thick and oaky. And of course, in order to stay hydrated throughout the experience, while also ensuring the quality of my experiment, I had to take additional sips. Now that we've cross-examined each of these bourbons, how would I rank them? In last place, we have Bulleit. I think for the price it would be fine as a mixer since the oaky flavor would hold up in most drinks, but it's just not a good sipper and there's nothing really remarkable about it. In third place, we have Basil Haydens. It makes for a fine sipper, but it's a little too gentle as a bourbon, especially with 10-year age statement. I think if you're trying to convert someone to bourbon, this is a great entry, but I don't see myself buying it again. Too expensive for what you get. Next, things get a little trickier. These are both fantastic bourbons, and I don't think you could go wrong with either. If I had to choose, the best value is easily the Russels Reserve 10. It's the more approachable of the two in regards to its flavor, as well as its price being 30% cheaper than Eagle Rare. I also felt the flavors were easier to pick out. However, I think overall, the Eagle Rare is the must-try between the two. With the lingering mouthfeel and the robust flavors, it strikes me as the more quintessential bourbon, and one that punches above its proof point. But between the two, the Russels Reserve will be the one I find myself replacing over and over, as it's just such a good value. Thanks everyone for watching and coming on this bourbon journey with me. If you learned something, or if you have a bottle you think I should try next, please leave a comment below. If you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.